This is Fernanda welcoming you to Before Effects. Today's episode is going to be really interesting. We have called it Blood Simple. As you guys know, quality of blood is one of the most underrated necessities for any effect to be successful. Regardless of working with silicone or latex, there is no perfect blood out there. It's always too thin, too viscous, too pink, too orange. I feel like we're all run into this problem before. 5 years ago, I was working on a project that required a lot of close-up of gory appliances, and no matter where I looked, I couldn't find the right blood that would flow well on silicone. Everything seemed to beat up on the skin. However, I found Rob Smith's blood, and if you haven't heard about it, get on your computer now and search it, buy it, use it. It's incredible. It photographs beautifully, it is non-staining as well as mouth safe. Can we really ask for more? At the time, there were no vendors in the States, so I had to ship the blood from England. I was super excited when the blood arrived. I really opened the package like a maniac, and I was amazed. It's a deep burnt orange color. I cannot think but, holy cow, this guy really sent me real blood. I set it on an appliance and I was completely convinced that I will never use any other silicone blood again. So for today's Blood Simple episode, I wanted to have a talk with the master of blood himself, Rob Smith. Hi Rob, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
My pleasure. It's nice to meet you anyway, finally.
It is extremely nice to meet you. I'm a huge fan and I was looking forward to hear more about the process and the elements behind the blood. So Rob, why blood? What makes somebody go around and say, I'm going to make blood for a living?
I guess I was always interested in doing makeup stuff from about the age of 12. So I remember getting a book called Making a Monster. When I was 12 years old, I read that cover to cover around my 12th birthday, I think I got it for. And that was the thing that made me want to become a makeup artist as a profession. But previous to that, I'd always messed around and done makeup stuff on my brothers when I was a kid, you know. And I remember in the closest parade of shops to where I live, and even now, there were two different shops selling different little bottles of fake blood, and one of them was so much more realistic than the other one. You know, like one of them would be like this really dark, thick stuff, and then the other one would be like this really sort of kind of bright, realistic. And I just, even as a kid, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, I remember thinking this blood's really realistic. So I had this sort of fascination with blood that looked really real. Back when I was tiny, you know, before I even thought about doing makeup as a career or anything. But I used to sell noses and wounds and latex pieces to some of the makeup supply shops here, and one of them was Screen Face. Back when I was probably still at school, I think I started supplying Charles Fox in Covent Garden when I was about 16 or 17 years old, and eventually either I suggested it or Screenface asked me, "Can you make blood for us?" I hadn't found anything that I thought was a really good, realistic, fresh, free-flowing blood. There was always something about it, you know. It was kind of it was too thick or too thin, or beaded up and separated on the skin, didn't flow like the real thing, or it was too transparent. Most of them, almost all of them, were completely transparent, which real blood is not. I'd been a fan of Dick Smith, you know, the great makeup artist Dick Smith. His formula for blood is well known. Everybody knows the K-Rose syrup and food color formula, you know. And Dick would add Kodak PhotoFlow photographic wetting agent into it to make it flow nicely on the skin. But of course, that meant it was toxic. You couldn't put it in your mouth. And also, he would add zinc oxide or titanium dioxide to opacify it. So it was kind of part of the formula that I'd learned from Dick to make it more realistic in every way, you know, as far as the flow and the thickness and opacity and that kind of thing. And I just didn't feel there was a blood that had everything that it needed for a fresh and, you know, fresh wounds. Plenty of thick stuff, drying blood, clotted blood, wound fillers, and all that stuff that was all okay. but the actual, fresh, free flowing blood, there wasn't anything really out there that I thought was super realistic. So I thought, this is what I've got to try and do, and that was my mission then. I made Screen Face blood for Screen Face in Notting Hill, and it became a kind of, a big seller and did very well. We saw it being used by the gallon on all kind of productions. And so, yeah, Screen Face blood was how I really got into making blood initially. And then other formulas I developed as the years went by,
You decided to make it your own brand.
Yes, exactly. So I was, I don't know if I spoke to you about this before, but at the time, I was using toothpaste in the formula.
Which I find super, it's like an aha moment for me. So please tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was the light bulb moment, when you're trying to get, I was trying to get the nice flow on the skin. So if you mix Cairo syrup, or what I was using in the UK was Tate and Lyle golden syrup. If you just mix that with food color and water, you get something that separates and we call it beading. It separates into little like beads on your skin. And a lot of guys would have added washing up liquid. That would be like the standard formula from years back, as opposed to Dick Smith's use of that Kodak photo flow. But of course, all those products are not suitable to put in your mouth. So I thought, well, I need to add a soap to this that you can put in your mouth. And what soap can you put in your mouth? A toothpaste. Brushing your teeth every morning, you're putting soap in your mouth basically, and with mouthwash and that kind of stuff. So I sort of had this brainwave, and I started experimenting with that, and it worked brilliantly, because not only did the toothpaste have the surfactant in it to make the flow properties improve, but it also had some titanium dioxide in there to whiten, opacify the blood. So I got my mix perfect with 3 tubes of toothpaste in a gallon, in a gallon of blood. You had just the right amount of opaqueness and just the right amount of flow, So that was quite a discovery. And so for years I was making this stuff, Screen Face blood, and then I thought, well, I can't keep making this blood with toothpaste. I've got to break down the important ingredients in toothpaste, and just make my own a different formula that makes it just makes life easier for me, and is a general purpose formula, and also just it's an alteration to the formula, so it wasn't Screen Face blood, it was now Rob Smith's blood, kind of thing. And then of course I had the issue with the silicone. People were saying, well, what can we do to this to make the blood flow on silicone? Because they're all props and body parts like severed heads and limbs and kind of those kind of things, we're making them out of silicone, and of course any water-based blood would just bead and separate really badly on silicone. So I had to find this a way around that problem as well, so I had to have the next brainwave was what can I put in it to help it flow on silicone, and I spent about 3 years on that, literally working not full-time obviously on it, but whilst doing other work, I think it took about 3 years to develop the silicone flow blood, which I think you're one of the first people to have, certainly over in the States.
And I feel really fortunate that we were able to get your blood here. I mean, besides making blood, you make a lot of latex appliances, correct?
A lot of foam latex pieces, yeah, that's right, yeah. And silicone, obviously. See, if it's worked mostly for film or TV, it would be a silicone, especially for makeup, prosthetics, anything that's small, subtle, or nothing too heavy. Silicone encapsulated pieces, standard kind of thing now, everybody uses, I think. And I do enjoy applying silicone pieces because they look nice and realistic. They've got that translucency to them, so you can get a very realistic finish when you do a silicone.
That's what got me into it, was definitely just the realistic effect that I wanted to go with, the heaviness of the silicone, because you can see the weight of it in comparison with the latex. You can definitely see how latex is lighter and has more air in it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. On when it comes to theatre, I always favour the foam latex because of its ability to absorb sweat and it stays on better. Because it's lighter and it glues. It just stays put. So you can have actors running around on stage and sweating buckets, and if they're wearing foam pieces, they're okay. Whereas silicone tends to slip around a bit. It's not as easy to keep it stay put if it's on,
Yes, that's
especially on
true.
stage.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite piece at all that you have done?
My favourite piece that I did is probably the werewolf transformation head I did.
Oh my God, I was gonna save that question for the end. I am obsessed with werewolves. Please tell me more about that.
That was fun, because that was a dream job. You ask me what would be a dream job that I haven't done, but I have already kind of done the dream job, if you like. I was another one of the things that inspired me the most, and of course everybody else that does what I do is an American Werewolf in London. So Rick Baker's transformation stuff in that was a kind of benchmark. So I was very lucky. One time I was working on this show. It's a comedy series called Psychoville, and they did a Halloween special, and there was a werewolf transformation in the script, and they were thinking of doing it with CG. So the director had this idea that it was going to be, yeah, computer, and I said, well, they said we haven't got much budget we don't really have the budget in the makeup budget to do this, so it's going off to visual effects. So, and I said, well, I can do this, and I knew that because I've worked on a couple of series with the guys. I knew Reese was a big fan of makeup, and he'd been to meet Christopher Tucker, who was one of my big influences, and a great makeup artist. And so Reese was very much into all this stuff, And I said, look, I can do the practical thing like Rick Baker, I can do this, American Werewolf style transformation thing with make the nose stretch out. Because I'd read all about that and how he'd done it back in probably Cinefex. And there's I think it's issue 16 of Cinefex, sadly no longer being published. But Cinefex did a great article on Rick Baker back in probably about 84, 85, something like that. He'd done a Michael Jackson's Thriller at the time. So it was around that kind of time. And so I'd been reading that. I must have read that article when I was about 14 or 15 years old, and I had in my brain this idea of that I'm going to do some transformation like that one day, with pushing and pulling and, all this kind of. So it kind of been imprinted in my brain from a very young age, how I could do this thing. But I'd never been given the opportunity professionally to do it, And so when this opportunity came up, I said, we can do this, we can do practical effect. And it's not going to be that difficult. We can do it. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. I didn't want to say I'll do it for free because
But you wanted to do it so bad you would put money out of pocket, right?
that's the thing, it's just like, well, I would do it for free, it's something I would do for fun anyway. But so yeah, we got basically the director Matt Lipsey said, well, how do I know you can do this? I didn't have anything in my portfolio or anything that showed that I could do anything like that because I never had done it. So I said, well, I'll do a little mock-up thing and just show you, just giving an idea. And I literally did it in one day, which was quite a record time, I would imagine, for something like that. I had a cast of my head because I'd made a severed head of me once, and I had the mold still. So I did a quick slush cast of a layer of silicone into that, and then backed it up with some biscuit foam, hacked it up with a saw, and cut and put the syringes in there, and put a quick hinge in the jaw. It was all very Heath Robinson, very, very quickly, hastily done, but it did the job. And then I managed to do a little video late that night, having worked on it all day, and it was my face with the nose stretching out. And he said, yeah, okay, great, we'll go for it, do it, we'll do it for the show. So I did, and I had a couple of weeks to do it. So I basically cast Reese with his prosthetics, because I had done an old age kind of prosthetic aging makeup on him with nasolabial folds and jowls, one piece. another piece, two prosthetic pieces, and old age stipple, so stretch stipple. We did the whole makeup, and then cast his head wearing all that makeup, doing a grimace kind of. And yeah, and then I had about 2 weeks to prepare this silicone and polyfoam head, and it worked very well. It was, considering how quickly it was made, it was quite effective. It did the job anyway, and they were very happy. Well, it's there's a clip of it on YouTube actually. The Psychoville Halloween special. You can
Psycho Pill Halloween special. Everybody hear that. We gotta go all see this werewolf
yeah, you can
effect.
see it. There's a quick clip of the werewolf transformation in there. It was done on a on a budget and very quickly, but it was that was fun. I would say that was the most fun job I've ever done, I guess.
I remember listening to the podcast you did with Stuart Bray and Todd the Bersani a few years ago, and you mentioned something about sending blood where there was no sensor. Tell me about that.
Yes, that's right. It's in Denmark. Initially, one of my big customers was in Denmark, and I found I was sending a lot of blood out there to Scandinavia, Norway and Denmark particularly. And I found out afterwards that there's no censorship there, and so they're happy to show bright and sort of realistic, very gory looking effects. And so that's part of it, I think, because a lot of the stuff here you get a different rating depending on how graphic and how bright the blood is. So a lot of the time they will want something that's darker, or it's more downplayed, so it's not so obvious and graphic and realistic kind of thing.
Yeah, let's move to Denmark.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what we should do since we love blood so much.
yeah. It's funny because I didn't even think about it till I was wondering what's going on over there. Is there better? Do they need brighter blood for the lighting out there somehow? There's something about putting blood on snow or something.
All right, Rob. So, any advice related to blood for us that are completely obsessed with gore?
I guess from a selling blood point of view, I would that if you're looking at blood, then just make sure you look at some real references sometimes. And I think we get used to seeing a lot of fake blood all the time. So there's an idea in people's heads about how dark it is, or how translucent, how transparent it is. And if you look at real life photographs, there's lots of Instagram accounts now of people that post quite horrific and graphic things, medical things. And there's a good one called Crime Scene Cleaners. He doesn't show graphic pictures of bodies or anything, but he shows the aftermath. So you see a lot of blood. And that's quite interesting from my point of view, because a lot of it is very, very bright and arterial, like the aftermath of a car accident or something. And you'll see that on the dark, on the pavement or on the tarmac, how bright and very almost like paint sometimes blood can be. It's not this dark see-through stuff that you see in movies all the time. It can be very bright and almost fake looking to some degree, especially on dark backgrounds. And I saw a picture of a bull from a bullfight, and the bull is black, and the blood was almost like paint on him. It's such a contrast to the actual black fur of the black hair of the animal, and it really looked like paint, because I guess the blood's kind of congealing, and so it's got a good thick layer of really opaque, bright kind of arterial blood. But if you'd sort of presented that in a film, people would just not believe that. They just say, look at that ridiculous blood. It doesn't look real at all.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really wish I could just keep talking to you for another hour.
Thanks, Fernanda. It's been lovely, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
So, guys, there you have it. Mr. Rob Smith, the master of blood himself, giving us a little bit of an insight on what it is to live your life as a special effects makeup artist. Goodbye. Make sure you tune in next week for the episode called Encapsulation.